You're listening to Investify, preaching financial independence and assisting investors to achieve a more flexible and free lifestyle through smart financial planning and real estate investing. If leaving the corporate world and jumping into this thriving industry is what you desire, tune in and listen to stories of like-minded individuals who made the leap to financial independence. Equip yourself with the right tips and tricks to start your real estate journey, making active or passive ventures that are highly profitable and rewarding. Here are your hosts, Craig Herlop and Ziana McIntyre.
You are listening to Investify. I'm your host, Ziana McIntyre. Today, I am hosting alone our beloved Craigie McGregorson. He's out with, I think, the node on his vocal cord. Poor guy has had it pretty rough and he's had to keep quiet, but the show must go on. So here I am today with a great friend of mine, Rocco Montana, who actually got me started in real estate as an agent. And so I'm forever grateful. He was my first mentor out of the gate before Craig stole me away. Craig, he's a bad guy. Not such a bad guy. But yeah, this is a great show today. I really hope you listen all the way to the end. There's lots of nuggets and a big reveal with a very disastrous story. But we talk a lot today about being a real estate investor, being a real estate agent, and Airbnb investing, which is near and dear to my heart. So I hope you get some nuggets today and that you end up reaching out to Rocco because he is such a wealth of knowledge. All right, let's bring him on to the show. Rocco Montana, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Z.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for being here today. So tell us, how did you first hear about financial independence?
Well, I transitioned from the kind of traditional W-2 worker, trading a lot of kind of time for money and leaving my job, which I later learned stands for just over broke.
Yeah.
I got into an investment coaching program. I've seen these postcards and these advertisements, come and figure out how to get wealthy in real estate in a weekend and financial freedom. And I was like, okay, what does all that mean? So I went to a free Wednesday night class and they had me hook, line, and sinker. And I paid a couple $100 for the weekend long class. And the strategies and things I learned about finance were just, it was primarily focused on real estate. It was a real estate investment focused coaching program. Really kind of blew my mind and on the opportunities that were out there to earn and then to create passive income to offset your daily expenses. And that was kind of the light bulb for financial independence, not having to show up at a certain place or a certain time. And that coaching program, which some people don't like, some people, everybody kind of has their positives and negative experiences personally, but I had a fantastic experience. It got me started on my entrepreneurial journey, my real estate investment journey. And I'm really grateful for that. It was money well spent and it was not inexpensive.
Yeah, but a lot of those kind of guru programs end up being like $40,000, like they have these like, oh, you can buy this and you could buy this other course. And so I think you're really lucky that this sounds like it was a legitimate program. And you didn't get suckered into something else.
It was a legitimate program, and you were pretty on the money for about what it had cost. I had convinced someone else, a couple that were actually no longer associated with, my friends or professional, to split it. So, we got into it for about a little over $20,000 per couple, my wife and I and this other couple. Mm-hmm. And I really, truly felt the only way to fail was to just not follow the instructions. It was so black and white and so clear. And me being who I am, being a human being, I got enough information to be dangerous and did a couple of deals that worked and a couple of deals that didn't in a big way. But yeah, I don't regret it. I still lean into those resources in that network, and I occasionally pop on their website and use the services that I paid for to get questions answered if I can't find it in my immediate network.
Okay, well, that's great. So
legit.
This couple that you don't talk to anymore, was the split kind of because of the money?
No, I think it was a little bit more personal. It's not a rabbit hole worth going down. It just, they ended up moving
Yeah.
out of state. They got involved in some other industries that they were more passionate about. And I do know today they both still have jobs, and my wife and I are both business owners, and a lot closer to financial independence than we were when we started with them.
Okay, well, great. So I know you personally, and I know that you are a badass real estate agent. You actually sold us the house that I am sitting in right now before I got my license. And you are the person who said, "What the hell are you doing with your life? You should get a license." And now I have one. So thank you. This is
Yeah,
all
you're
to
welcome.
you. But I'm wondering if you were already an agent at the time that you took this class, or that kind of happened later as you were realizing there's an opportunity there.
Well, I know, we're focused, your audience is primarily investors. I don't know if it's just, agents, but when I took the course, I did not see any negative or downside to getting licensed. As a matter of fact, I thought it was a monster advantage to get licensed as I embarked on this journey of becoming a real estate investor. The other side of the coin is a lot of people are like, well, you can't say this, or you can't do that, and you have to over disclose. And I'm like, over disclose? Like, I'm not lying to anybody. I'm not trying to take advantage of anybody. Like, why would I not get the license, share with these people that I'm trying to buy their house for cash or flip, and just talk about the advantages and disadvantages of going through an investor versus going to the open marketplace. Oh, by the way, because I have my license, which was fairly easy to get, I can give you both the best of both worlds. I can buy your house for cash at a discount, and it could be quick and easy and painless, or you can get the highest and best price with a significant amount of effort and list the house. Plus the tools and the data, the MLS access, the Realtor Association, love them or hate them, they can be a great network to get involved with. There are a lot of rock stars in the Realtor Associations, and there's a lot of other fringe benefits, systems, resources, tools, events, networking. I got licensed. I enrolled in this investment coaching course and immediately got my real estate license. Like, I had quit my W-2 job, took a month off, went to the physical class because I'm not a good webinar learner. And I was licensed within a month of leaving my W-2 job, and I was an investor, with a license from day one.
Man, I love that, because so many people will get overwhelmed, or they won't really lean into it. But it just seems like you were like, this is it. I'm lighting a fire and I'm going to just change my whole life. And I know you're married. So were you with Jamie at the time?
So Jamie, I don't even think we were engaged yet. She liquidated the only 401k she had to pay for the real estate investment course. Like, I had convinced her, not yet married, she actually left a conference a day early from her W-2 job to come to be part of the interview that these guru courses like, to make sure that you qualify. Very, very fancy sounding. At the end of the day, they just want to make sure that you can pay that first bill. You can and show a little bit of initiative. They definitely want you to show some initiative, but they'll definitely take your money, all of them, even the good ones. But yeah, she dove in, and she actually supported me for about a year and a half, working a W-2 job while I built our business one beer and coffee at a time. That's going to be the name of my book. Don't steal it. How to build a business one beer and coffee at a time.
It's a good name. You should write that.
Yeah. So it's in the works. It's, one of the many things I'm trying to get off the ground and keep things going. But yeah, my wife has been a super, super supportive. It took her about a year and a half to convince her to get away from that. I get my paycheck every 2 weeks. I have my 401k. We have health insurance. What happens if something goes sideways? Now we are both business owners. We are partners in the investment company and the realty company. And she has another partner in a construction business. So we're working on owning the vertical as far as it comes to at least the real estate investment part.
Okay, so I'm ready to go into your first deal and talk about that. But I do want to highlight something that you brought up a little earlier. You were mentioning how you can buy homes at a discount with a real estate license. And so there's the one way where you're saying, hey, I'm negotiating with a distressed owner who might be going through a divorce or death or foreclosure, something like that. But the other way is just simply that because we have a license, we get about 3% off. And for a lot of people, 3% off might not sound like a lot. But I was just recently looking for $1 million house. And when I did the calculations, that was like 27,000 and some change. So it can actually make a big difference to just do your own paperwork, which you would have done, anyway, happily, and get to pocket that as equity. So, there are lots of benefits to having your license.
Quick side note, the log cabin that you see me sitting in is a second home my wife and I bought, which is Airbnb eligible. We can always talk about that, and we'll do that, and we'll Airbnb our other home that we already have. But yeah, I mean, this house was $650,000, and at closing, as I had written my 10% second home loan down payment, I also got a $17,000 check back at closing because I was my own buyer's agent. The seller paid my commission, so the seller paid me to buy their house.
Yeah. So basically, let's just go into that because it's kind of fun for just a moment. 650,000. So 65,000 down. Then your closing costs were probably another $12,000 or $13,000, right?
I think I was 73,000 out of pocket between the earnest money, closing costs, and down payment.
Great. And then you got back, what did you say? Like 13,000? It was like
17,200 bucks.
So then you're just paying like 50K. Like it just makes it so much sweeter. So that makes your return on investment super great. Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you for sharing that, because I think that is a good little nugget. So we like to have the segment that we call the for real deal.
The for real deal.
And we want to talk about your first deal that made you feel like an investor. So do you have one that sounds appropriate? We can go to that trailer one you want to go to. I definitely want to talk about some Airbnb stuff because I know you for Airbnb, but
so I'm just thinking in my head, what was my actual first deal? And it's the deal that made me quit my W-2 job. So I'm going to go back before the trailer deal. That might've been my second deal. And I can remember the numbers and go over some crazy ROI on how we did it. But my first deal, I was selling cars, working at a car dealership. I had just convinced my wife to spend all this money on this investment coaching program. And I still had to keep my W-2 job because we weren't quite ready to take the leap. And I'm doing some of the really rudimentary young investor things. I'm on Craigslist. I'm on Facebook Marketplace. I'm joining all the groups. I'm finding out where the networking is. I'm going to meetups. And on one of the groups, I think it was the investment coaching private group, which you get when you pay your $50,000 or whatever, you get that investment coaching group. Don't underestimate it. And I'll tell you why here now. Guy posted, I'm overwhelmed with deals. My mother-in-law selling a house. I just want a smooth transaction. Let me know if anybody's interested, preferably cash offers. I just don't have the bandwidth. I want to help my mother-in-law out. I reach out to the guy who just says, listen, I'm hands off. It's my family. I'm going to put you in touch with my mother-in-law. Do the right thing. We share the same investment coaching. So I'm going to trust the transfer of trust through that program that you're going to do the right thing. I look at the house. I called up the lady. I Googled Colorado real estate contractor. I'm in Colorado. And I filled in the blanks with a pen, like printed it out and filled in the blanks with a pen. Now we use.
Oh my God, was this 1990? What's happening?
Yeah. I'm handwriting these contracts. And I sent it to the lady and she said, I had 4 or 5 people reach out to me. She goes, you're the only person that sent me like a proper form. Like I literally had somebody try to sit me down and negotiate on a napkin. So the professionalism right there was awesome. And I was clueless, right? I was so clueless. And I got the property under contract. I reached out to a general contractor I knew and realized I didn't know enough about estimating repair costs just yet. And he says, you know what? I'll buy it. What do you need for it? And I says, okay. I believe I had it under contract at $440 and I sold it to him for $456. So in total, I probably
you kind of wholesaled it.
I did wholesale it. It was a wholesale.
Okay, great.
So I put it under contract. Then I went into the coaching program and found a assignment of contract form. And I went to my general contractor and he walked through it and he could tell I was over my head for the amount of work. He said, well, I actually do this, which I didn't know. It was a guy in my network previous to my investment career. And he says, I'll buy it from you. What do you need? And I went back and forth with some roof credit and things like that. And we can talk about those details. I don't know if they're super relevant. We came out to $456. I put $16,000 in my pocket in probably in total, including signing at the end, to finding the deal to making that first phone call, maybe 4 hours of work. And I quit my W-2 job that week.
Yes, I love that. And so I imagine at that time you were like still scrappy and frugal, because I know you're pretty scrappy and frugal now. So at 16,000, were you thinking, okay, this is runway for me for 4 or 5 months or something like that, and by then I'm definitely going to have something else going on? Or was that not even in the plan?
No, that was definitely the plan. The plan was like, cool,
Okay.
$16,000. I can get by on a couple of months with this, and then I can focus on the next deal. Truth be told, my next deal didn't happen for almost a year.
Oh God. Oh my gosh. That's rough.
Yeah, well, I gotta give you the whole truth, right? I can't just tell you it was all sunshine and rainbows from day one.
Yeah. But that's great. I think there's something about the first deal. There's something about the first deal as an agent, but also as an investor. And I think as an agent, like I experienced this, I sort of spent 3 months kind of showing people around and not knowing what I was doing and starting to feel a little desperate. And then when I did the first deal, it was like, oh, okay, I can do this. And then it was
Absolutely.
easier, right? But it's almost like you have to mentally switch something in your mind and go, okay, this is possible. Now I'm good to go. So, yeah. Anyway, just going on a tangent there.
No, yeah, listen, after that first deal and building my business one beer and coffee at a time for call it 8 to 12 months, I then did about a dozen flips over the course of like 3 years.
Yeah.
And probably 2 or 3 wholesales after that second deal and beyond.
Yeah.
So once that first domino fell, the second one wasn't quite as quick, but for me, once that second one went, it was off to the races.
Okay, so tell me about the second deal, and then I'm going to fast forward us to the deal that you have that's near my house that I think you've already sold. But I just think it's so fun the way you structure that Airbnb deal. And so I definitely want to make sure that we cover it. So yeah, let's talk about the deal number 2, because it took you a whole year. So were you feeling like you were being a little overly cautious, or there just wasn't anything, or you just didn't know how to identify a deal when you saw one?
I think overly cautious is part of it, as much as I'm much more open to risk than my wife is. She's a lot more conservative than I am in that sense. But I was, after doing so many deals, you kind of learn the ropes of like where you can benefit, where you can be a little loose, where you need to be really firm. And yeah, that first year, like I just couldn't make any deal make sense. And in hindsight, it was fear, definitely fear. And secondly, it was just way over, like too much of a buffer. Like, oh, just in case I'm going to put in this extra $10,000 when I probably should have put only in an extra 1,000. Or I'm going to add, I'm going to calculate a year whole time, even though our target is 3 or 4 months, and I could have calculated at 6 and still had a comfortable buffer. Fear was a little bit of it. But that second deal, to get back to your original question, I actually had some cash saved up. I believe we might have used some 0% credit card money. But we bought a trailer house with a partner who was in a different investment coaching program, a much older guy, had a much longer track record than I did. But he was open to working with me. He said, hey, I found this opportunity. I need some private money. I said, well, I'll lend the money to the deal. It was a $16,000 trailer. And I went with this partner, Tony, at the time, and we emptied the trailer out, did a deep clean on like a Saturday and a Sunday. I'm talking 55-year-old man, hundreds of deals under his belt. We're scrubbing the smoke yellow off of the walls in this trailer house. And then we market it for sale for like $24,000. Him and I split the difference. Plus I made 12% as a private lender. The whole process, I think, was 60 days. My ROI on that second deal was something like 42% annualized. Like if I could repeat that over and over again over the course of 12 months, if we extrapolated the data, it was like 42 or 46% was my annualized rate of return on the money and time that I put into that deal.
That's amazing. I want to just kind of like go back to what you're saying about this 55-year-old guy who's done hundreds of deals and he's on his hands and knees, like scrubbing the walls. And it's just something that I think is inherent to investors. Like most of us are scrappy people. And I will say the same about myself. Is like, I love to travel and work part-time and be super casual. But when it gets to me needing to like do something serious, like bang out furnishing an Airbnb, I'll pull 16-hour days. I'm like
Oh yeah.
cleaning, trash cans with maggots and like doing
Yeah.
gross ass shit. Like basically,
Yeah.
I will not ask anybody to do something I wouldn't do myself.
We've
So-
rented and loaded box trucks at midnight to get staging furniture out for Airbnbs. I got
Yeah.
after my wife's full-time job at the time and me starting my career as an agent, focusing on that as well. A little tip that I have, if I may share, is I'm going to have to coin this term somewhere, but the conduit of opportunity. And maybe you can experience this. You were a long-time investor before you became an agent, Z. So
yeah.
the conduit of opportunity, in my experience, I'd love to hear yours if you're willing to share and we have the time, didn't go from being an investor to being an agent. But being an agent, I'm exposed to a lot more opportunities for investments. So maybe you can attest to that or not, as someone that was an investor for what, a decade before you got licensed, 5 years before you got licensed. And then I get licensed and it's like, when I leaned into the agent community, there was just so much more, and in my opinion, a lot of better opportunities to invest than there was without my license or without having that network of other agents.
Yeah. So I kind of have this theory that it has to do with doing something real estate related all the time. And so I have a very simple practice. I really like the Redfin app and I look at it every day. And it sends me just listings that are new in the area based on what I've been searching. So if I've been in Hawaii or all over, it sends me random shit. But it sends me enough stuff in Boulder that occasionally I'll see something and send it to a client. They're probably already on a search. They may have seen it, but I cannot tell you how many magical experiences have happened because of that practice. And I think it's just simply that I'm dedicated towards doing something every day that's in real estate. And so if you're in real estate as an agent, most likely you're doing something real estate related. Maybe you're knocking on doors, maybe you're talking to people. You're going to hear about off-market stuff. You're going to hear about stuff early, and you'll know how to recognize the deal because you're in that market every day. So yeah, I think that maybe it's a combo, but there is something to doing something every day and letting the magic unfold through that. Cool. Well, let's talk, if you would, can we go into, I don't know how much how much further it was. So let's actually do the timeline. When was your very first deal? When was this trailer park deal? So we have kind of a idea.
So I got licensed in September 2016. I joined that coaching program in that, I think it was June or July. And I believe it might have been October of 2017 was that second deal.
Okay, perfect. So from there, 1, 2, skip a few. What did you kind of do in between before you got this Airbnb property here in Boulder?
I think in 2017 is about when I started the Airbnb property. So my wife and I had a roommate. So my wife moved in with me because she was living with like 3 roommates and she was in this like basement kind of apartment and there were 2 people upstairs and it was just outside of town and she wasn't loving it. And it didn't make sense financially for us to have 2 different housing payments. And since I had owned my home, I said, well, why don't you come in and we'll just split the mortgage. I said, honestly, you don't even have to pay anything as my girlfriend, fiance. I don't remember the order of operations exactly there. But I had a roommate in another bedroom that was paying like 80% of the mortgage anyway. So my wife says, we're grown-ups. Like we're getting married, we're getting engaged. Like we're done with roommates. Well,
I'm laughing because I know where the story goes and it's not very grown up.
No, it's quite the contrary. So I'm trying to build our business by networking and beers and coffees. And my wife's got this W-2 job that she actually really hates. And we stumble upon Airbnb. So we start Airbnb-ing the second bedroom instead of having a long-term tenant, which, and I'm sure you know or have shared with your listeners, but like everything I have read and in my personal experience that of having long-term tenants and having short-term rentals, it's like half the wear and tear and twice the income with the short-term rental. People show up, they shit, shower, shave, they go to the show, and they leave. Long-term tenants sit on your couch and smoke weed and watch TV, and you're like, you're putting a dent in my couch. Like, could you do your dishes?
Yeah.
So we decided to start doing that. Then we get to the point where we're Airbnb both bedrooms and sleeping on our couch. And
Not
this was
very
just the
grown
hustle.
up.
Not very
Yeah.
grown up. Not exactly the intention my wife had, but it was so lucrative. And I was able to convince my wife on the power of real estate and the moves that we could make next and how this will catapult our growth. You know, that overnight success that takes 10 years that everybody talks about, like, you know, I didn't get to the point, just like you didn't get to the point of X amount of properties and X amount of clients and X amount of six figures times however per year. It started with roommates sleeping on a couch, maggot infested trash cans, filling up a box truck at midnight.
Yep.
To get here. And I think that's just an important thing to kind of lean into. And again, I hope I'm not too far off topic, but for your viewers, at least the newcomers or young investors that are young in their career, I mean, I'm 6 years in as a licensed agent and an investor. And there's times where I'll Airbnb all of my front range properties and go stay in a hotel. And it's kind of fun. It's kind of like a running joke with my wife and some of our friends and close friends. But like, if I go stay at the Westin for $150, and I've got 3 or 4 houses rented at $200 a night, well, I'm still winning.
Yeah. And you get a sweet little staycation with those
Heck
luxury
yeah,
beds.
we have fun. We bring the dog, no big deal.
Oh my God, your dog. I can't imagine the Westin like that very much, but okay. Okay. So just so we have some numbers on that property, can you tell us like what you bought it for and all that so that we can kind of visualize this?
So we're going to go way back beyond before my investing career. So I've never paid rent, proudly. I bought my condo at 20 in Boulder. It was a foreclosure. I'm from New York and New Jersey. I've rounded out the rough edges, but I still got a way to go, I'm sure. I reached out to half a dozen agents in New Jersey at 19 years old, and one person got back to me. They were like, this guy's not going to buy a condo in Boulder at 19 years old. Ben. I never forget him. He picked me up at the airport. He showed me 20 condos in 2 days and dropped me off back at the airport on Sunday, Saturday morning, Sunday night. I ended up, I offered $80,000 on this foreclosure that was listed for 115. And Ben said, that's not really how it works. I said, well, that's how it works where I'm from. And if you don't want to write the offer, I'll find someone that will. He says, okay. Bank comes back and said they go from 116 to 114. I said, all right, offer them 90. He was like, oh my God, guy, like, what are you doing? I said, I was like, I don't care. Like, we'll figure it out. Like, we'll make it work on this one. We'll find another one. The bank comes back to him and says, they're not going to entertain any more offers under 100. I said, great, offer them 100. So I bought the condo for $102,000 in 2006. No, yeah, 2006. I moved in January 2006. I closed November 2005. Fast forward to 2021. I got a place in Denver. It was a flip that went a little sideways. My wife fell in love with the house. We were able to afford to keep it, and we could Airbnb it because of the primary residence rules in both Boulder and Denver. We tried to walk the thin line and have one be my wife's primary and another one be my primary. Boulder was smart enough to see marriage records because I got married in Boulder County. And they said, well, your wife has a rental license in Denver and you have a rental license in Boulder. Therefore, we assume Boulder is no longer your primary residence. We decline your short-term rental license. I have a real estate license. I didn't want to push the limits. I got caught.
Yeah.
I sold the property for $325,000.
Yes.
And, I took no commission on it. Paid the 2.8 to the sellers, the buyer's agent, because it made more sense for me to defer my capital gains because it was my primary residence. So why would I take $9,000 as income with my brokerage when I can just put that into, my free and clear capital gains avoidance because it was my primary residence. So that was the condo in Boulder, sold in.
So let's go into that a little bit. So are you talking about the rule? You're saying it was still your primary residence at this time? or
Yes.
not technically?
Yes.
Okay. So
Well,
the living there 2 years of the last 5 years, you can take at least 250,000, right? Capital gains free.
As a married couple, it's up to 500.
Up to 500. Yeah.
So
Cool.
yeah.
So great.
No
so
tax on the $225,000 gain.
Yeah, that's so great. So let's just go into the numbers a little bit. So do you remember what your mortgage was on that place back when you had your roommate and kind of what your roommate was paying?
My mortgage, when I had the long-term tenant sharing the room, my mortgage was never more than $1,100 plus, between $250 and $360 in HOA fees over 15 years. But my roommate was
somewhere
paying
like 1,400.
Yep, and I was getting $800 a month with one of my first roommates. Towards the end of the long-term roommate situation, we had a roommate paying $1,000 a month.
Nice. And for people that don't know, these were kind of like basement rooms. It wasn't like the most ideal. You guys had it decorated cute. You did like a whole renovation of the kitchen, but yeah, I mean, that's a lot in Boulder to be paying $1,000. I imagine you had it furnished for them.
Yeah, I believe for the most part we kept the dresser and a TV and a bed in that room to make life a little bit easier.
Okay, cool. So then you had to redo the kitchen. Do you remember what you spent on that?
Well, again, this is a little bit of a side note. My property in 2013 flooded, not because of the big flood in Boulder, but because the unit above mine was vacant and a refrigerator line went. So all the water had come through the floor, through the wall in my kitchen that was separating my dining and kitchen that gave me the galley kitchen, and down into my basement bedrooms. And it was all popcorn ceiling.
Oh.
So because my homeowner's insurance paid for it, I got $50,000 or $60,000 in remodel, plus move in, move out, plus a hotel for 2 months while the house got worked on. So my renovation didn't cost me anything. $1,000 deductible on my homeowner's insurance.
Man, you are just a lucky guy, huh?
I was very lucky in that situation.
Yeah, I do think that luck favors the real estate investor. I think if you get yourself in the right positions, there's a lot of luck that can happen. I know I've experienced a lot. Okay, well, great. So that happened. That was really great. So when you went from this $1,000 a month long-term person, what kind of rates were you seeing from these Airbnbs that made you want to rent out both rooms and like sleep on a couch?
Part of it necessity, right? Let's call a spade a spade. But the other part of it was, we probably could have done we were Airbnb one bedroom, and we used some resources like AirDNA and things like that to look it up. My basement bedroom was the #1 private bedroom in Boulder for like 3 years on Airbnb. Like if you went to AirDNA, that bedroom in that condo was the #1 private bedroom with shared common space in Boulder for like 4 years. And I am, you might be more analytical than me. I'm a little bit more of a sales guy. So I'm not going to, I know that as a whole, that property in the most recent analysis, even with $1,100 a month mortgage and $300 and change in HOA fees, we were doing between $3,500 and $5,000 a month in Airbnb on that property.
Nice. Yeah. That makes me feel like I'm not charging enough at my place. I love it. So yeah, obviously that made sense. And so that's also back when you were becoming an agent. And so that allowed you to not have a deal for a year. That allowed you to kind of like have the spaciousness. So I just like want people to realize that, because that was true for me too, that at my kind of beginning of Airbnb, I lived between 2 apartments and I just stayed wherever wasn't booked. So I literally had a rolly suitcase and I was just living between the 2. And that was just my life for like 2 years.
I still do that between Wash Park and Denver and Lions.
Yeah. It's what you got to do. It's the hustle, but that allowed
nicer
me
than
to call
2 apartments,
myself.
But
Sure. No, I mean, now you have luxury homes that you go between, whatever, we can all dream. But it allowed me to call myself financially independent. It allowed me to have just all this freedom to travel. Like it's just so much good that it outweighs some of that discomfort. So I just kind of like want people to see that, because Airbnb changed my life for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, we get back to the family ranch, my wife's family ranch, every 45 to 60 days. Like sometimes we go back for 2 days, sometimes we go back for 12. And the Airbnbs are rented, or both houses will be rented. All 3 houses now that we have are rented here in Colorado's Front Range. It's a little bit higher risk, don't get me wrong, owning all, because I know your properties at least used to be in other states that are a little bit more affordable. Housing prices, we have 3 Colorado Front Range properties, so higher risk comes higher reward, and higher margin of error when things go sideways. But
sure,
the freedom that we have financially and time-wise, thanks to Airbnb, thanks to real estate, is unmatched. I don't know where else you can get it.
absolutely. I mean, real estate allows you, at least real estate sales, and probably any sales job, but it allows you to have this unlimited, uncapped resource for income. It's just as like much work as you want to do, or as much hustle as you've got. Like, you can literally make $1 million plus a year if you want to. So I think there's just not a lot of other jobs out there that do that.
No, I mean, yeah, you can make $1 million plus a year, and it doesn't have to be that hard. It's not that much brain damage. I tell everybody, just care, whether it's your tenants or your vendors or your clients, buyers, sellers, investors, just care. Just like, that's what I tell my team, just, and you'll stand out amongst other landlords, agents, investors, vendors, whatever you're doing, just care. And when you're passionate, like you and I are, about real estate, about financial independence, about helping others, again, primarily being passionate about helping others, especially in the real estate space, because we're both passionate about that as well. The financial independence, it has no choice. You have no choice but to get there if you care about other people and you're in real estate.
I love that. Okay. Before we transition to the second part of the show, what would you say is your average cash flow from your 3 houses? I know it's seasonal, but do you have kind of an idea of what you're living off of on these homes?
Absolutely. We averaged over the year $10,000 a month last year. Now moving from a condo to another, I don't know if the House and Lions is quite a luxury property yet, but we anticipate doing $15,000 a month in just Airbnb in 2022.
Nice. And is that gross or is that net? Like, is that your profit?
That's gross. That doesn't include mortgages. Our mortgages are about $8,000 a month across 3 properties.
I mean, $7,000 is still super duper great. Plus you're selling tons of real estate, but even if you weren't, that's enough to be financially independent. I mean, maybe not for you because you got big ass goals, but I definitely think
I got big ass goals. We're making lots of investments in our businesses and in our properties. But, my wife and I talk about it all the time. Once we pay off any of the mistakes that we've made, the coaching programs, the few losses that we have taken, which are the minority, but they were larger, the minority of deals where we took losses, we could live off of these 3 houses for the rest of our life. Like, I could stop selling real estate. We can pay off a couple of more. We could pay off 2 of the 3 mortgages and still live a super, super nice life and never have to work again on 3 houses. It's just 3.
Yeah. Which, if people are new to real estate, they don't necessarily know, but a lot of people that are buying long-term rentals, maybe your cash flow is $100 a month, $200 or $300 a month per house. And so if you're trying to cover a $75,000 a year income and leave your job, it's like, that's a load of houses. You need so many houses. You're like, how many, and how am I going to manage all that and everything? So it just shows the power of Airbnb that you can do this. For me, it was 2 properties and they were little ass condos. And now you're saying 3 houses, but you could have done it earlier too with less. So it is just pretty remarkable how fast you can supercharge that. So I wasn't going to go into this, but because you brought it up, I kind of want to hear about one of your fantastic fails. Would you be willing to go into that?
I am. My fantastic fail came in a pair. So wonderful. Up in Fort Collins, which is a great town in Colorado, It's kind of where Boulder meets Cheyenne, Wyoming. So you got a lot of left, a lot of right, a lot of yuppies, a lot of cowboys, and they all kind of congregate in Fort Collins. We bought 2 houses, literally 1 block apart. We saw at least 1, if not 2 investors that had done maybe a half a dozen deals in that neighborhood in the last 2 years. And we thought we were going to be hot shots and we were going to do these kind of luxury remodels. And this is probably deals like 4 and 5, maybe 3 and 4. If I think about it. Yeah, I think it was deals 3 and 4. And we underestimated, over trusted, undermanaged. I knew enough to be dangerous from the coaching programs I invested in, but we bought let's see, I know you want the numbers, so I'm trying to put the numbers together for you. Give me a second. Welch and Emmy Street. I still have nightmares about these properties. We had a business partner that brought no money to the table. We used some family money. We used 0% credit cards. We used hard money. And we bought this house for $450. We put 120 into it. So that's 570. We borrowed 100% of the money at 12%. And I believe we had this property for 2 years. I think it was 2 years to get it done. I remember a phone call from the general contractor at the time, who we absolutely do not use or recommend, where the drywaller blew his shoulder out. So I hadn't been by the property in a week, which is, again, my fault, undermanaged. I thought the partner that we had up there that didn't bring any money to the deal was going to be on site and checking in every day. No work had been done, like 2 weeks. So I call up the contractor and I say, what's going on? Oh, well, what's his name? Blew his shoulder out. He was in the hospital and he couldn't get to work. So we're kind of at a standstill. And I was like, this house is costing me $475 a day. What are you missing about needing to be expeditious? And again, maybe I could have delivered the message better. Maybe I should have. It shouldn't have got to this point where we're 18 months into a proposed 6 or 8 month hold. The budget was going to be 80,000. We're at 120. So yeah, at the end of the day, you have to have checks and balances in your real estate investing business. That's the point I can make. We booked between the 2 properties, and I don't want to scare people away, but you asked, between the 2 properties, they sold within a month of each other after holding them both almost for 2 years, both going 30% or more over budget. We lost almost $250,000 in borrowed money, credit cards, family money. That being said, here's an advice if things do go sideways in your audience's business. All of our lenders got paid back in full. All of our partners made right. I had lenders renegotiate interest and terms and fees with us because we never ran. I begged and borrowed. I didn't steal, but beg and borrow and steal is the phrase you might be thinking of when I say that. We begged and borrowed and got the jobs done because we knew walking away from an unfinished product was not an effective solution. Just giving up was not an effective solution. And that's really the point I'm trying to make. When things got sideways, we learned a lot. We learned who to partner with, who not to partner with, how to vet your partners, what level of trust to give to your vendors, how to have accountability for your vendors, how to better run your numbers. There was just so much learning that happened. How to have hard conversations, how to go back to the hardened private money lenders and say, I don't know if I can pay you this month. Like I'm taking out 0% credit cards left and right to finish paint and drywall so we can get it listed and get it sold. Like, I'm not going anywhere, but I'm asking for you to work with us because I'm showing up, telling you I'm going to do my best and I'm going to do right by you. And it might not be in the timeline that you want, but I will get it done. And you know what? It's my favorite private money and hard money lenders still work with us, still recommend us. And we've done another 8 or 10 deals after that where we made money and everybody got paid back and everything went right side up. But yeah, we ended up selling those houses. We bought them both around 450. We put about 120 in each of them. That puts us at 570. Again, trying to make a sales commission wasn't happening for me. Thank God I was the listing agent because I had my license. but 3% to the buyer's agents, 2 years of hold costs. We sold those properties. I think we sold one for 605 and one for 625.
Man, I mean, that's a powerful story. And I'm so glad you were willing to share it, but it's rough for sure.
Yeah. I mean, if you take anything out of it, Ziana, is just don't give up. Don't stop. Things are going to happen. Don't run. Don't hide. Put your best foot forward. Be honest. Come from a place of integrity. Communicate early and communicate often with your partners, your vendors, your lenders, and things. You can make it happen.
Well, yeah, that's a powerful story. And it's funny that you brought up hard conversations, because you are somebody that I've called before and said, how do I have these hard conversations? I call you very often when I'm like, I need some advice on how to be like just a better person, I guess, to do the right thing.
That's a pretty big compliment, but.
Man, you're my go-to guy. So anyway, I just really appreciate the candid kind of story, because I think the thing that I like the least about real estate is that people are so willing to talk about all their successes and how, special and smart they are, but they're really not willing to share the times that they failed. And like, that's just part of it. We all have to fail a little bit.
I agree. Yeah. The coaching program I was in really emphasized fail forward. They were like, people are going to make mistakes, whether you're a real estate agent or a real estate investor or a widget salesman. You're going to have mess ups, and get them out of the way and move forward and move on. And you can get it done. One of my favorite quotes or sentiments that was shared with me at one of the many conferences that I like to visit, and they work for me. Not everybody loves it. I got people that call me Rocco in my network, because I'm always the one that could pull out a quote by some famous sales guy like Zig Ziglar, or a Grant Cardone thing, or a Gary Vee thing, or whomever. But I was at a conference, and kind of along the same vein, is being worried what other people are doing or other people's successes is like, having a 5-gallon bucket on the shoreline and picking that 5-gallon bucket in the ocean, and that's your deal flow or your opportunity, and being upset that there's another guy a mile down the shoreline with his 5-gallon bucket. What that means to me, whether you think about that in the terms of how to get through losses, or being jealous of somebody else that's doing better than you, or whatever it might be, it's like, there's so much opportunity. As long as you keep filling that bucket, as long as you keep going to that shoreline, there's so much opportunity, that you just, it benefits you to never give up, and to just keep moving forward. Things are going to go up, things are going to go down. Just keep moving forward, and you'll get through it.
I love that. So I've just got to tell this story before we go into the final four, because it is very alive right now. We've got people delivering a dishwasher behind me, so you may hear some banging around. But this was from an Airbnb guest. So we Airbnb our own property here, and we do a lot of pet sitting and a lot of travel. And on Christmas, we kind of had a weird Christmas, but on Christmas, we got a message from our guest who was checking out the next day. And she said, I got to tell you, I slipped and fell on your dishwasher. And I'm like, what? That's a first, And so she sends me these photos, and it must have been open at the time. She slipped and fell. It actually looked quite painful, but she was fine. Couple of dents in the dishwasher, but it rendered it unusable. And she ended up sending us $600 to pay for the dishwasher. Now, we upgraded and got something that was like $900, but it's still pretty awesome that kind of stuff happens. And of course, it's a hassle. I had to do a lot of shopping around to get delivery, and now we've got guys in our house. But it's kind of one of the upsides of Airbnb is that sometimes you can turn something that's negative into a positive. Just kind of how like you had that, raining into your apartment from the upstairs neighbor, and it turned into a whole free renovation for you to get rid of that popcorn ceiling and that super amazing kitchen. So sometimes those are the failures that are not failures until the end. You realize they're actually awesome. So here we are. But okay, let's go into our final four. I've got 4 questions for you. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
The final four.
Okay. I don't actually know this about you, but are you a big reader? Because we're going to ask you what you're reading right now, but maybe you're a listener instead of a reader.
So I'm a big fan of 75 Hard. If you've ever heard of it, this guy Andy Frisella created this kind of self-discipline mental toughness program that also gets confused with a fitness program because it has a fitness section of it, but it requires the reading of a physical book. So it actually got me in the habit of reading physical books. I do like to listen. I did just listen to David Goggins' Can't Hurt Me. So you want to talk about dealing with adversity and pushing through. That was a fantastic book. What I am reading right now, I've also recently gotten into hunting. So the physical book I'm reading is Stephen Ranella is the Meat Eater Guide to Wilderness Survival. So I'm reading a book about, how to build a shelter in the woods if you get lost, how to find plants that are edible, how to find small game and trap them and have food if you need it. So I'm reading right now, Meat Eater Guide to Wilderness Survival, and the next book is Traction. So that'll be back into my business books that I've had many people recommend, which I believe the premise is a lot of kind of tracking and I'm drawing a blank on the word, but tracking
like
and
streamlining
metrics.
your business. Yeah. Well, that's good. I mean, I feel like if COVID takes a turn for the worst, I'm just going to come to your house. We're going to go figure out how to be in the woods together because I don't know shit about that. But I got to tell you that at the beginning of COVID, I was like, oh, maybe I need to learn how to be a little more self-reliant. So yeah, luckily we haven't had to do that yet. We'll see.
God, thank goodness. But yeah, that COVID is definitely part of what got me more into hunting and how to live off the land. And if the shit really does hit the fan, there's very, very few people that are going to make it more than a few weeks.
Yeah. Well, I hope he comes up with a vegetarian's guide because I'm pretty much screwed. I don't eat meat, so I don't know what's going to happen there.
There's a lot of edible plants. There's a shocking amount of edible plants.
Totally. Okay. So question number 2, what is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Best piece of advice I've ever received. Don't quit. Don't quit. It's all the mistakes, all the errors, all the hard times. It's not a failure unless you quit. I think that gets misunderstood. I think that gets misunderstood by a lot of people too. Like people that don't want to quit their job to become an entrepreneur or to move into a different field. Like that's not quitting. That's making a transition. If you deal with some adversity and then you just give up on that task, I think that would be a little bit more along the lines of the definition of quit in my book. Just don't quit.
Yeah. And it's really about how you look at things, because I think like, for example, that apartment you had, when the ceiling came raining in, you could have been like, I knew I should have never bought a property. I'm never doing this again. It's over. This is terrible. Exactly. You list it the next week, Yeah. But you ended up going through the process, getting it fixed, realizing that you had so much more money to do with how you wanted and made it something amazing. And it's the same with this dishwasher. I could have said, man, I'm never doing Airbnb again. Now I'm out $600, but you just kind of see how you can make something better. And so, yeah, if it's not ending in a good way, it's probably not the end yet. I don't know how that quote goes, but something like that. Okay.
I get what you're saying.
Yes. Question number 3. What is your why?
I almost feel like it's cheesy to say, but financial independence, freedom is my why. I like to say freedom because the freedom to give back to my community, the freedom to give back to my family, the freedom to spend time with whom I want, where I want, when I want, right? To be able to be the master of your own universe. So my why, to keep going, to get through the adversity, to try again, to take another risk, to do another opportunity, another deal, is just the goal is freedom of choice is the biggest thing. Like a lot of people, I recently had somebody close to us call me money hungry, and I was like, you're so missing it. It's not about money hungry. It's not about making more money so that I can have a fancy car or a fancy home or nicer clothes. It's about the freedom that comes with that earning potential, the freedom that comes from wealth to have the ability to control your time, to have more choices, to freedom of choice. So yeah, my why is the freedom to give back, the freedom to do what I want, when I want, with whom I want.
And this is why we get along, because freedom is really my biggest value too. And I think that's what set me out on this path. So I totally agree. Question number 4, if you could go back and do it again, what might you do differently?
I want to say the same answer a lot of people say is start earlier. Like if I could go back and do something differently, I was terrified of commission only. I was terrified of starting a business, and, I can only imagine with the last 6 years of being a real estate investor and a real estate agent and being self-employed. And, if I had started 5 years sooner and I was in year 11, not year 6, it's just start sooner. Start sooner.
Yeah.
That's it. If I can go back and do something different, I would hesitate less.
Yeah, I agree. Same here. I'm like, what was I doing investing in real estate and managing properties this whole time without a license,
Yeah.
But I also trust in timing, right? So
Yeah.
I'm happy I'm here now. That's all.
Yep.
Cool. Well, where can people find out more about you or get in touch?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy. My business number is my cell phone number. So you can always call me at 303-862-4939. My real estate team, J-Rock Properties, JROC. This is our logo here. Let me get it on there.
Nice.
We have
Yeah.
that
We're
design.
seeing
Looks
it.
kind of like a cattle brand. Looks kind of like a cattle
Nice.
brand, because my wife grew up on a cattle ranch, and J-Rock is for Jamie and Rocco. My wife is Jamie, I'm Rocco. And it's really been a pleasure. J-Rock Properties, JROC Properties on all the socials. And feel free to reach out, DM me, call me. I'd love to help if I can help anybody out there.
Thank you so much for your time today. I think a lot of people are going to resonate with your story, and it was just fun to have you. So
Thank you so much for having me, Z. It's always a pleasure to connect with you.
Man, I'm waiting for Craig to say, Z, what'd you think? Well, what I thought was it was a really fun show. I just really like the whole spectrum, the fantastic fails and the way that it's ended so well in his life, just with 3 properties, how they're cash flowing $7,000 a month and probably more in the summertime. It's just really inspiring to see what can be done with little resources and even coming back after losing $250,000. So I hope you guys take away some just great nuggets and maybe get inspired about Airbnb. If you're thinking about starting an Airbnb business, you can reach out to Rocco or if you're thinking about becoming a real estate agent, Craig and I and Rocco all have teams here in Colorado, but we can have teams nationwide, and we would love to talk to you. So definitely reach out, because you could start now, and that might be starting sooner than you thought. Well, thanks so much for listening all the way to the end today. If you really like this show, please share it around with your friends or leave it a comment or review wherever you listen to your podcasts. We'll see you next week.
That's it for this episode of Investify. We hope that these nuggets of real estate wisdom lead to more savvy financial planning and a clearer path towards financial freedom. For more content like this, subscribe to the show at investify.com. Don't forget to leave a rating and share it with your friends. Together, we can transform more real estate newbies into successful and clever investors. Thank you so much for listening. See you on the next one.